It may have been the case, I'm not really a student of church history enough to say this or to give examples of what I'm about to say, but it may have been the case that there was a time that the East needed the West.
Yeah.
I think that's probably true.
Yeah, it is.
But I think in a sense today, the West is in need of the East.
Well, that's interesting. Like, you know, the kind of like the linchpin moment of that whole conversation is like what happened with the Second Vatican Council. And I'm not super smart. I've not read the documents from the council. But one thing I think is safe to say is that the Eastern churches were the winners of all of that.
The Eastern churches?
Yeah, the Eastern Catholic churches, you know, where it was like they returned to their liturgical expression. You know, they returned to like the fullness of their traditions. Whereas like where it seemed like the West kind of went off the rails a little bit, at least the Latinization period was over. And it took a while to see the fruit of that, just like it took a while to see I don't want to say the fruit in the West, because I don't know that it's fruitful, and it seems like it could be getting better. But anyway, as the Eastern Catholic churches have become more Eastern, have become more Orthodox after Vatican II, now you start seeing all of these Catholics kind of flocking to the Eastern Catholic churches, which is why it's interesting. Like, I think most prominent, maybe not most, but a lot of prominent Catholic apologists are now Eastern Catholics. I mean, like, you're canonically Eastern Catholic, yeah? Mm-hmm. Like, Trent's Western.
Okay. He attended a Byzantine church. And
okay.
He may still from time to time, but I don't know.
And a handful of others. Like, I don't want to necessarily go into like their business or their life, but
sure. Well, Lofton is openly one.
Right, yeah. So it's like, okay, there's an example where I guess the West does need the East, in that. I don't know what that looks like down the road. Like, does it mean like the West empties out, now everybody's an Eastern Catholic? I don't know.
I'm sure there's a lot of Orthodox who would pray for that they might see this as the only path to union. I would hope not. We have such beautiful beauties in the West. I love the Latin Mass. There really is. I mean, I know that it can sound a little kind of relativistic maybe, because again, there's this part of the human psyche that wants everything identical.
Yeah.
There's something really cool about kneeling down and opening up your mouth and receiving the Eucharist. Know your place. Get down. Shut up. There's something powerful about that. Gregorian chant is some of the most beautiful music I've ever heard. I keep trying to like Orthodox, like Bulgarian chant, and don't get me wrong, I do. And there's a lot that's beautiful about that, and Ukrainian kind of chant, but in my mind, Gregorian chant is unsurpassed as far as spiritual, beautiful music. Yeah, the other thing that's weird is I was in Ukraine last year, and I think you and I talked about this, that in America, you know, like if you're Catholic and you become Orthodox, or if you're Orthodox and you become Catholic, there's this pressure that you impose, that others impose, to like get rid of everything else. So God forbid that I should pray the rosary and the Chotki, that I should have statues and icons. It's like, it's almost like the other is a threat to the culture I'm trying to bring about in my own heart and in my own family. It's sort of maybe the reason that like Quebec is very strict about there being no English unless French is first. I don't know all the rules, you know, but like there's this, like Quebec is aware, and I used to live in Ireland in what's called the Gaeltacht, where Irish is the first language before, like Gaelic, before English. And they know, and they're right, that if they don't guard Irish, English will wash it away. So they have to be that kind of, you know? And so I think like when someone, let's say, becomes an Eastern Catholic, there's this like, okay, well now I got to get rid of all these Western devotions. And there might be, maybe there's something to that, right? I'm not saying there's not, just like there's not something to the Irish or the Quebecois doing something like that. But what I noticed when I went to Ukraine is like people comfortable with this kind of spirituality. Like you've got these nuns in these like Byzantine convents, and there's rosaries. Yeah. And I think I took a couple of photos for you of this beautiful Ukrainian Catholic church, which is clearly Orthodox, and like there's a statue of the Sacred Heart. And I don't think they have the same weird hang-ups that we do.
Yeah. Well, I think that's, I think you're right. I think there's something beautiful about living in that space, which is like the same reason, like if you go to Poland, at least the pictures I've seen from Poland, or like friends from Poland, will send pictures, and it's like, that looks like an Orthodox church. Like, oh no, it's a Catholic church. Like, oh, is it Byzantine Catholic? No, no, it's a Roman Catholic church. kind of that certain space that kind of blends the two together. But I also think that there's a way to do the first thing, like the kind of, let's not engage in the other well, not for the sake of refuting the other, but for the sake of living fully into what is your patrimony.
But here's what's weird though. Like the East is neither, I mean, maybe it's more yours than mine because I think you've got some Eastern blood in you, but it's not our patrimonies.
Yeah.
Like, aren't I just play acting? Why the hell would I abandon my patrimony? Like there's a bit of shame there. Not shame, but there's a sense where I'm not always proud that I became Ukrainian Catholic because I feel like there's a sort of natural piety that I ought to have to my natural patrimony.
No, I mean, you're right. I do have, like, on my mother's side, some Ukrainian, Romanian, Hungarian. Mm-hmm. I have a lot of that, a lot of Slavic stuff on my mother's side. But overall, I mean, I'm like 60% Irish, English, and German, or Scottish, English, and German. So like I guess, I don't know, that I think that's the weird thing for like most Americans is you're both, especially because like one of your parents is one thing and another is another. So I mean, how do you do that? Or I know like one guy, a friend of mine, is Egyptian, his wife's Ukrainian, so his kids are half Egyptian, half Ukrainian, and like they split their time between a Coptic Orthodox church and a Ukrainian Catholic church.
Wow.
And but
I mean, the way I try to get around that is by telling myself I'm Catholic. The entire treasury of devotions and traditions are open to me. And yet there is, if tomorrow there was a full-on reconciliation between East and West, and all of the patriarchs became whatever they become.
Yeah, what would that
Catholic
look,
and Orthodox. And obviously you'd have like little splinter groups that would be holdouts, but like let's just pretend. It's like, well, then there's still something to be said about maintaining the traditions of your forefathers.
Right.
Even on a cultural, natural level. Like you still, like I love praying the rosary. This is something my grandma prayed, her parents prayed. There's something to be kept even when let's say, there's full reconciliation. Hey, thank you so much for watching. Before you go, do us a favor, leave a comment, let us know what you thought of the video, like, and subscribe.